You spoke about mental health. When Bandersnatch released, you withdrew from Twitter, saying that you had, it was tough for your mental health to deal with all that came with that. Tell us a little bit about what happened following Bandersnatch's release.
Yeah. So yeah, for anyone who didn't see, I did a thing called Bandersnatch. It's on Netflix, and it's kind of like this weird interactive film come game. It's part of the Black Mirror series, and I was really, really lucky to do it. Very grateful, and there was quite a lot of chatter regarding Bandersnatch and various things about the program in and around the time of its release. My decision to leave social media at that point was actually totally unrelated to any of the creative-led conversations about Bandersnatch or what it was like as a piece of art or whatever. There were some other conversations unrelated to anything creative that were going on at the same time that I was the sort of subject of, that it wasn't beneficial for me to just be witness to it. I kind of feel like I don't seek the opinion of thousands of people that I don't know in my everyday life. So why was it that I found myself scrolling through the opinions of lots of people, on things about me that, it was strange. So I felt like the best thing to do was distance myself from that, and just step away. And you can't control what people say online, and you can't expect people to behave in a certain way. I think all you can do is kind of recognize when there's danger and relinquish some control by stepping away when necessary. So just the interest in my mental health, I did that. And the way I put it is, if someone is excessively complimentary to me online, I don't carry over an inflated sense of myself into the real world. Because someone tweeted me something really nicely, I don't then walk to the shops thinking I'm amazing. And to the same extent, if someone says something incredibly nasty to me online, I should try not to have that affect my mental health and kind of deplete my mood, but it's hard. And social media is this sort of other dimension that I think we all have to consider in the context, in the grander context of our mental health ultimately. Like, is this actually good for me? Because for the most part it might be, but you might be one of those people like me that realized the balance was off, and actually it was mostly a negative experience.
Then you've spoken a lot previously about your experiences with bullying, especially at school. Do you see yourself moving into a more vocal advocacy role against anti-bullying, especially going to schools in the future? Yeah, I mean, that's another thing that I'm sort of like a wannabe minister for education. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, to be honest. But yeah, I've been involved with an anti-bullying charity since 2010, and they do amazing work where they go into schools and they work with young people to train up anti-bullying ambassadors who then implement different sort of programs into kind of everyday school life to monitor bullying and generally just make schools a safer, happier, and ultimately more kind of productive environment. And that again is so bizarre. I think too many schools, too many educational institutions, facilities, whatever, I think they have a very old school, traditional, archaic attitude towards bullying, whereas it's part of character building, or it's just part of growing up, or it makes you stronger. It's that kind of stiff upper lip attitude that actually down the line doesn't really help anyone out, leads to mental health issues. I think the scars of bullying, are kind of, can last a long, long time after you've left school. I experienced some bullying at school, but not nearly as bad as a lot of the bullying that I witnessed. And I worked with a teacher at school to try and implement a kind of anti-bullying program, which was kind of semi-embraced, but it was also looked at like a little bit soft, and not quite taken seriously. And I just find it odd. I think what's great about Anti-Bullying Pro, which is in association with the Diana Award, they're up and down the country now and expanding internationally. And hundreds of schools have fully embraced the anti-bullying programs, and they've benefited from it. Bullying rates are reduced massively. The kids are generally far more happy, and it's in the school's interest, I think, to create that kind of environment, because it gets the best out of young people.
you want to go to school, you know, feeling safe and happy as a young person, not, you know, dreading the fact that you might be bullied in the hallways, or feeling like, you know, you have to endure a really inhospitable environment just to be able to, you know, get your grades, or you know, approach your work passionately. I wasn't that passionate about school, but you know what I mean? Some people are.
So thank you for coming here. And as a part you talked earlier, you said like mental health is really important to you. So normally as actor, you can have a chance to play a different role. So of course it takes time to get into the role. So is it difficult? Is it you have ever experienced like you get into the role and you couldn't get out? And if like you couldn't get out, what you normally do to protect your mental health?
Sure. It's a really good question. Yeah, I've always found, like, in a way, one of the ways with dealing with my, and this is probably not advisable, but one of the ways of dealing with like my own insecurities and mental health struggles was I found kind of escapism in acting, and I've kind of borrowed identity from characters, if that makes sense. But it's kind of interesting how sometimes playing a character can, although offer you escapism initially, can actually begin to have an adverse effect on your mental health. Weirdly, like, We're the Millers, I got to be honest, maybe more than any of the characters I've ever played, that character, because I was playing like a battered, bullied, you know, socially repressed, kind of ultimately self-loathing character who was constantly being laughed at. By the end of the process, I was really like, I was weirdly and unexpectedly affected by that. So it's odd, like people will say, and particularly in the, you know, press, you'd sit opposite American journalists and be like, oh, it must have been so much fun. Like you just had a ball, right? And you're like, actually, you can't say that. You can't say no. But I was thinking, no, like not at all. I was pretty miserable through the entire experience. Really lucky to be there, still wanting to be there. But yeah, so when it comes to trying to sort of combat that or avoid it, I don't know. I've found that I've paid special attention to looking after my mental health in between jobs, making sure that, you know, basic things like I'm getting enough sleep and I'm eating healthily. I started reading books literally at the age of like 25. I literally started about that late. But reading has been so beneficial for my mental health. I'm just going to assume you all read quite a lot anyway, given the environment we're in. So I'm not going to be like, you should try books. Really, I'm telling you. It's controversial, but you know that. I'm just saying what I've just learned. But yeah, reading's been amazing for me. And if anyone doesn't read Matt Haig yet, Matt Haig is an amazing writer on the subject of mental health. He's got a book called Reasons to Stay Alive, and he's got a book called Notes on a Nervous Planet, both amazing. Yeah, physical exercise as well for my mental health as much as anything else. So just things like that, you know, in between jobs, pre and post, just to make sure I don't, sort of, honestly, like fall into a state of depression or something like that, you know?
I just wanted to know, what are your top 3 favourite films of all time and why?
Oh, it's such a good question. I'm just so unprepared for it though, because I have about 300 favourite films. I couldn't break it down to 3. For childhood nostalgia, Hook. I love Hook, obsessed with Hook. I'm also the biggest Robin Williams fan of all time. So that always gets a mention. This is horrible. I hate this already. That's really up there. There's a film called Short Term 12 that's not very well known. That's my sort of alternative indie choice. Which is, it's very good. Good Will Hunting's always been up there for me. It's one of those things that, like, objectively, a lot of people say that's a good film. I do love that film. It's another Robin Williams movie. I would say those are 3 in my top 10, but I wouldn't necessarily say my top 3 because I just couldn't do that. But those are 3 in my top 10. But yeah, if you haven't checked out Short Term 12, check that out because you'll think I'm cool. Yeah.